It's JoeHan.
All right. Hi. Okay. Let me do this. Hi, everyone. My name is JoeHan. I'm currently a principal animator at Riot Games, working on League of Legends. I first got into animation by taking a 2D animation course, and many of the ways I approach my authoring my 3D animations and problem solving is still from a very 2D perspective. These next tips, or I should really say my habits, are things I notice myself doing on a day-to-day basis. So here we go. Trick number one, draw on your monitor. I use a dry erase marker to draw over my animation as a way of tracking what I've done so far or to plan what I want to do next. Here's what you need. Dry erase markers, whiteboard cleaner, cleaner refill, microfiber cloth. And I just want to say I haven't ruined any monitors so far, but I work on Dell monitors. I don't know about Apple ones. They use special coatings. I don't know. So use discretion. Here are a few things you can do with the marker. Well, we can create a line of action, ideate a pose, and basically you can roughen your pose and line up the character to the drawing. It's fun. Another thing we can do, keep track of contact points like foot contact and hand placement. You basically mark the point and you slide your pose back in place. It's a really great way of tracking swings and arcs. By dotting the keyframes and connecting the dots, you can visualize the path. This also lets us visualize timing. By tracking the spacing between the poses, we can see how fast or slow something is moving, which kind of leads me to my next tip, tip number 2. Use evenly spaced keyframes. And so what do I mean by that? When doing this, I set keys along even intervals, like in this case, every 3 frames, and delete anything in between. And I should emphasize this usually for a small range, like a swing or an attack. And why is this useful? Well, it lets you visualize your timing in your animation when jumping between your keyframes. I'm going to try to explain using this movement. Here you can see the object is accelerating in the beginning and slowing down near the end. And here, I'm going to show you the keyframes in that movement. You can see how different the spacing is at the bottom. And let's just say we were to key evenly for the same movement, like every 4 frames. And I want to compare these two and show you how we can actually see the timing visualized. And looking at the spacing of the non-uniform poses, I have no idea what the speed is like because there's no constant where the keyframes exist in time. Looking at the example on the right, we know each pose is 4 frames apart. And then when looking at the poses now, we can clearly see that the ball is moving slowly in the beginning, zips across in the middle, slows down near the end. I hope that made sense. My last tip, orthographic views. Use orthographic views. I'm not sure, I'm sure you guys already do this, but I just want to emphasize how important it is, especially when you're working on 3D games where your animation will be shown from multiple angles. And by no means are these views accurate representations of the final animation, what they will look like. But it's a really good way of gut checking your work by eliminating depth. It can help reveal posing mistakes and other flaws in your animation. Here's an example of a pose that looks okay in perspective view. And look at it from front view, and we can see that the pose is off balance. In orthographic view, it's really easy to correct this pose. So let's do it. Here we go. Orthographic cameras can also be used for tracking movement. Here's an example of a character flying through space. The animation is shown in normal perspective. Here it is from front and side, orthographic views. And this is a really useful way of tracking arcs. And I can worry about making changes a dimension at a time. I can track gravity as well by looking at the vertical spacing between the keys. We can also track him up top to see if he's moving in a straight line, and he is. And generally, I found that overall, if you can make your movement look pretty decent in side, front view, and sometimes top, it'll generally look good in most angles. And you know, I found myself in the beginning not using orthographic cameras due to how inconvenient the interface was. Maybe it was because it took too many clicks. I've since created myself hotkeys to quickly switch between the different viewports. So, you know, definitely something I use every day, and I'll include a link to the scripts and hotkeys at the end of this. So let's see. To summarize what I just rambled about, draw on your monitor using dry erase markers. Use evenly spaced keyframes. Use orthographic cameras. And if you wish, follow this link and it should take you to my scripts. Thanks for your time. And next up, talented Kyle Chittenden.